Hi, have you ever wondered what you can do to build a more rich and engaging skill for your customers? My name is Alok Dhamanaskar. I'm a software development manager at Alexa, and today we're going to talk about all the things that you can do to take your skill to the next level. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get started. First up, we're going to talk about what is skill quality and why do we care about it. From there, we're going to look at using analytics data to build an understanding of skill quality and troubleshoot issues. Next, we're going to use testing and evaluation tools to extensively test your skill and identify issues more proactively. Lastly, we're going to look at two quality tools for improving your speech recognition and natural language understanding of your skill. We think of high quality skills as skills that are able to effectively understand the customer and respond to meet their goals, and do so consistently with low latency over a period of time. Based on our experience of building skills at Alexa and helping 3P developers build skill, we know the relationship between skill quality and engagement is clear. So, why skill quality? Because high quality skills help users meet their goals and in the process drive more engagement, more retention, and more traffic for your skill. Another key aspect to note here is that each user's perception of skill quality is unique. What that means is, as different users interact with your skills over a period of time, the perception of quality shifts. Now, this is hardly unique to skills, but it makes it more critical for voice interfaces where there are literally thousands of ways a users can interact with your skill. As a result, even our best skills are always a work in progress from a quality point of view. All of this means that skill quality cannot be an afterthought. It needs to be part of your skill development lifecycle and needs to be part of your post-launch operational regime. Now let's look at some specific steps you can take to start tackling skill quality. If you are a live skill, we recommend that you first start with analytics data. This is a great place to understand how users are using your skill and what you can do to make sure they have a smooth, rich, and engaging experience. And that's exactly what we're going to do in today's presentation. We're going to take a sample live skill and use that to demonstrate how you can use different analytics metrics to understand skill quality and then address issues based on that. In next step, we're going to leverage different testing and evaluation tools and use that to extensively test your skill and identify issues before they reach production so that we can address them before they start impacting customers. In the last step, we're going to talk about some quality tools that we build that can help you address speech recognition and natural language understanding with your skill. Now, if you're building a new skill, you would use the same steps, but you would go from right to left, where you would start with building the right and the most engaging skill, move on to using testing tools, and then look at analytics data. But since we're going to assume that we have a live skill, we'll start with analytics. But before we get there, let's look at what our sample skill looks like. Our sample skill is called Weekend Warrior. Weekend Warrior is a skill that users can use to explore their city nearby and find the most relevant activities for them, be it parks, shows, farmers markets, things of that nature. Now let's look at a few sample conversations a user might have with the skill. In the first one, we have a customer who wants to discover different activities. They don't have anything specific in mind, but they're asking the skill for suggestions. The skill asks them a few questions about what they might be open to doing, and then eventually guides them to an activity that they want to do. Now, all of this is modeled by the discover intent activity. In the next scenario, we have a user who knows exactly what they want to do. They know they want to go for a swim, and they just want to look for nearby swimming pools so that they can plan their activity. This interaction is modeled with the plan activity intent. There are more intents and slots that the skill supports, but we'll talk more about them as we dive into different examples. So let's dive into step one, using analytics to improve your skill. Now, if you already have a live skill, you know there are a lot of metrics under the analytics tab. Since we are focused on skill quality, we can focus our attention on performance metrics and customer friction metrics. Let's look at some of the specific metrics under this that will help you build a better understanding of skill quality and troubleshoot it. First, we have endpoint latency and errors. This will help you understand the performance of your skill backend. If you're seeing fluctuations in latency or errors thrown by your skill backend, this is an obvious place to start. We would recommend fixing these before you move on to other metrics. Unhandled requests helps you understand requests, or utterances that your skill was not able to handle. These typically lead to conversations where Alexa responds saying, I don't know that one. And these are great ones to look at and understand new use cases that you might want to support. Next, we have the friction summary metrics or the friction metrics. This is a metric that's generated by a machine learning model that tries to understand different contextual signals and determine whether this interaction would lead to customer friction. This is a great metric to understand how effectively your skill is responding to meet customer needs. Next, we have estimated system errors. This is another machine learning based metric. The only difference between this and customer friction metric is that this one takes into account speech recognition accuracy and natural language understanding accuracy to determine if the system behaved as it was expected to do. So where the customer friction metric is more a customer facing metric, the estimated system errors is more geared towards understanding whether the system did everything it was supposed to do. So let's deep dive into customer friction metrics. Here we have customer friction rate for our skill Weekend Warrior. We are looking at a 3-month window and the graph shows relative change in friction rate. This graph can be an incredible tool to help you understand how your skill is doing and whether it's trending in the right direction with regards to customer friction. Now we see 2 interesting data points in the graph, one around May 24th and another around July 19th. In both of these cases, friction starts to increase. Outside that, friction seems to remain relatively stable. Now there might be multiple reasons why friction is increasing. So let's talk through some of these reasons. Earlier in the talk, we discussed customer friction being unique to each customers. And that means usually as you onboard new users, your friction can go up. Let's see if that is the case here. Now, if you look at the customers graph, we see a corresponding bump and increase in number of customers around the same period, around sort of May 17th to May 24th. This makes sense that as we are onboarding new users, our friction is going up. But that does not mean we cannot do anything to address it. If you're seeing increase in friction as you onboard new customers, we would encourage you to take a look at your first use experience and see what you can do to make it easier for customers to use your skill at the first time. This might involve simplifying invocation phrases, creating help guides, using multimodal experiences to really make it easier for users to use your skill the first time. Now, for our second bump in friction, we don't see any corresponding increase in customers. So there might be other reasons for it. So let's talk about some of those. We also know that customer friction changes over time, even with the same customer set. For example, if your skill content hasn't changed in a while, people will start to drop off and experience friction. Now, in our skill, I don't think that's the reason because it's a relatively new skill. So it must be something else. Another key aspect to troubleshoot is to see what has changed with your skill. Now, in this specific case, I know I haven't changed my interaction model, but I remember doing a deployment during the week of July, and that might be something that could have caused the increase in friction. So a good takeaway would be to go and look at what changes you've made and see how they could be impacting customer friction and what you might want to do to address them. If you want to identify which specific utterances are causing friction, we can look at the frequent utterances table. Here, we have frequent utterances table for customer friction. These are all utterances for our skill Weekend Warrior that are resulting in end user friction. The first 2 utterances here are talking about biking, where the user wants to go and plan a biking activity. Now, this is not surprising, as I know biking is a use case the skill does not support. But if a lot of users are asking for it, that's a good feedback for me as a skill developer to consider whether I want to start supporting these use cases. In the next 2 utterances, the user is asking to plan a swimming activity or find nearby pools. Now, swimming is an activity the skill does support, and I would expect the skill's interaction model to be able to handle this. So if my takeaway here would be to go visit the interaction model and add these as sample utterances to the skill. That way, next time I get these requests or any variations of it, the skill is able to handle them. Another useful feature here is the ability to be able to filter all the frequent utterances by intent. That will allow you to focus on one specific intent at a time and address issues with it. You can run similar deep dives with other quality metrics we looked at, like the estimated system errors. All of these deep dives will help you build a better understanding of the quality of your skill, how it is trending, and what steps you can take to improve it. Now, while we continue to invest in building tools like these that help you troubleshoot issues and fix things on your own, we are also looking at things that can make it easier to help you address some of these issues. To make it easy to address some of these issues that we talked about, at Alexa Live, we announced Auto Defect Reduction service. Auto Defect Reduction uses self-learning to identify defects and correct them before it impacts customers. This can detect vast variations in utterances and replace them with utterances that the skill is known to handle. It can also take malformed requests and correct them in a way the skill can interpret the requests in a better way. Self-learning system first learns about utterances that can cause friction for customers. For example, in our skill, Weekend Warrior, if a customer says, "I'm wondering what to do this weekend," but the skill is not able to handle it, and the customer ends up exiting the session, the self-learning system categorizes this as a defect. Now, in another interaction, if instead of exiting the session, the user rephrases the request and the skill responds, this is categorized as a success by the feedback learning system. Alexa learns from these instances. As more of these instances happen, the feedback learning system identifies the potential defect pattern and the utterance that can be used to correct those defects. Next time, a similar interaction happens, and we are confident of the correction that we have generated, we will apply that correction in runtime and prevent that friction from happening. We are constantly running A/B tests and taking developer feedback into account as we generate these corrections. Auto Defect Reduction will come with a corrections dashboard in Analytics console, where you can see all the frequent corrections that are currently being applied to your skill and provide feedback. We want you to tell us what works and what does not work for your skill. The corrections dashboard can also help you look for opportunities to enrich your skill and improve your skills interaction model. Updating your skills interaction model will help you handle these friction utterances and their variations better in future. In our early testing, we have observed between 8 and 14% reduction in defects across millions of corrections that we have done. We welcome you to join the developer preview for auto defect reduction. Now that we have built a robust understanding of skill quality and used it to identify and address issues, let's see how we can use testing and evaluation tools to proactively identify issues and address them before they impact customers. On the testing tool side, you have two types of testing tools. Your end-to-end testing tools help you test your skill as an end user would interact with the skill. These include the simulator in console, simulator in VS Code, and the simulation APIs. End-to-end testing tools were covered in details in one of the previous tech talks on skill quality. So if you're new to the space, I would definitely recommend checking those out. But for this talk, we're going to focus on using testing tools for interaction model. The ASR evaluation tools helps you evaluate the speech recognition accuracy of the interaction model, while the natural language understanding evaluation tool or NLU eval tool helps you evaluate the NLU accuracy of your interaction model. The quality of the insights that you can actually get from these tools really depends upon the quality of your test sets. So let's look at what it takes to build a high quality test set. Creating exhaustive test cases for a skill is a time consuming activity. And even after spending that time, you might not be able to consider and cover all possible variations. An average test set covers only 55% of intents. Let's take our Weekend Warrior skill for example. Discover activity is a relatively simple intent with just one slot. Now, if this slot has 20 different potential slot values for activity names, and even if we consider just 10 different sample variations for this intent, we would easily have 200 utterances to test with. Generating audios for these 200 utterances is going to take even longer. We've heard feedback from many of our partners and would like to make it easy for you to generate test utterances. At Alexa Live this year, we launched automated test set generation. This helps you create comprehensive test sets in minutes, including audios for all of your tested utterances. these same test sets would have taken hours to generate. The automated test set generation takes your interaction model and live traffic into account and uses advanced techniques like grammar induction to generate different variations of test utterances to help you test your skill exhaustively. Once generated, these utterances are ready to use with ASR and NLU evaluation tools. Let's look at a quick demo of how you can go about using automated test set generation. We are in Developer Console for our sample skill Weekend Warrior. In order to use NLU and ASR evaluation tools, I'm going to click on Annotation Sets from the left-hand navigation. Here, you have two separate sections for automated test sets and user-defined test sets. If you already used this tool before or created a test set, it would show up under user-defined test set. Let's go ahead and click on Generate Test Set. Test set generation system is able to create three different types of test sets. The interaction model test set uses your interaction model, sample utterances, and slot values to create an exhaustive test set that covers 100% of your intents. The frequency utterance test set is using frequent utterances from your production traffic to create a test set. The utterance recommendation engine test set creates variations of utterances in your interaction model to create a more richer test set that helps you understand how your interaction model will handle different possible variations. Let's go ahead and hit create. This usually takes few minutes. While we wait, let's go ahead and create annotation sets for ASR evaluation tool. We'll click on ASR evaluation and repeat the same steps. Once we have hit create, let's go back to NLU evaluation tool and see if our test sets have been generated. The interaction model test set is already generated. It has 77 utterances and it took under a minute to generate these. Let's take a quick look inside to look at some of these utterances. We have sample utterances for plan show details intent, for plan activity intent, and for discover activity intent, with all different possible combinations of slot values. Let's also take a look at our utterance recommendation test set to see what do we find there. The recommendation utterance test set has 54 utterances, and you can see a lot more variety in terms of sample utterances in this test set. You might also notice that some of these don't quite make sense. Things like, I want to be interested in basketball might not necessarily be right test utterances. In this case, we would encourage you to take a look at the sample generated utterances and eliminate those that do not make sense for your skill. Let's also take a look at the test sets generated for ASR evaluation. These follow a similar format, except the input here is an audio file. We generate these audios using Amazon Poly, and the expected value here is the transcription for the audio. Now that we have these test sets, let's go ahead and trigger evaluations. We'll do this for NLU evaluation, and then we'll also trigger an evaluation for ASR. Once you've done that, we'll go back to our slide deck and look at specific failures in these test cases and see how we can use them to identify issues and fix them. So let's take a look at some of the evaluation results. It looks like our recommendation test set had a 78% pass rate. For a test set that was expected to measure how well your skill interaction model handles different variations, we think this is pretty good. But let's take a look at what some of these failures were. In the first couple instances, we have utterances that were not handled by the skill. I would like to get to a soccer field was not recognized as a plan activity. In the next one, the customer is looking for kids area instead of play area. Both of these can be handled by adding additional sample utterances to the skill interaction model. In the third one, we have a partial match where instead of detecting stand-up comedy as the slot value, the interaction model just detected comedy. We think the action here should be same. We need to go and add additional sample utterances to the skill. The last one, give a tennis game, is a bit weird and might be something that we don't expect the skill to handle. It would be okay to ignore some of these or remove them from your interaction model. Now that we've looked at different ways of using analytics data and testing tools to improve your skill, Let's look at some of the existing and upcoming quality tools that we are building to help you build more richer and engaging experiences. Last month at Alexa Live, we launched Utterance Recommendation Engine. Utterance Recommendation Engine gives developers recommendations for possible utterance variations to add to their interaction model. This helps new skill builders build skills quickly and helps existing skill builders improve the quality of their interaction model. Similar to our test set generation system, the Utterance Recommendation Engine uses machine learning techniques and grammar induction to create possible variations of utterances that you can add to your skill. Let's take a look at a quick demo to see how you can use this. We are back in Developer Console for our Weekend Warrior skill. On the left-hand side, we have all the custom intents the skill supports. Let's look at Discover Activity. Discover Activity right now has 6 sample utterances, and there are probably a lot more variations that we need to add here for the skill to be able to handle a wide range of customer requests. Utterance Recommendation Engine will use these sample utterances to generate different possible variations. In order for you to use Recommendation Engine, you need to have at least 5 sample utterances. Let's go ahead and hit Recommendations. As you can see, there are 14 recommendations available for you to choose from. We have things like, what do I have to do on this weekend? I have to get something to do. Tell me what to do. Things of that nature. Not necessarily all of these have to make sense for your skill. Let's go ahead and pick a few that we feel are good fit for our skill. So I'm going to select a few of these and then click Add them to our skill. You can also select all and add all of these at once. You can see that now your skill has 12 utterances. This is going to dramatically increase the ability of your skill to handle different possible variations. The Utterance Recommendation Engine will help you improve the natural language understanding capability of your skill. But what if your skill is running into speech recognition issues? What if your skill has rare words or non-standard words that the speech recognition component often gets wrong? In the case of our skill Weekend Warrior, we ran into this as we wanted to support the use case for customers to request information about specific shows by artists in their city. For example, help me find shows by Gwar or Gwar based on how you pronounce it. Skills that handle fictional characters or medical terms might run into similar issues. To solve these challenges, we've announced the launch of Custom Pronunciation. This is a tool that can help developers ingest custom pronunciations for rare words into their skill interaction model to improve the speech recognition accuracy. Let's see how this will work. This starts by identifying speech recognition issues. There are a variety of ways of doing that, but the easiest one would be to use ASR evaluation tool. You can use a test set and create different pronunciation variations and see how your skill interaction model handles it. Once you've identified words for which you need to improve speech recognition, you can head to the custom lexicon page on Developer Console. This page will also provide you recommendations for different possible variations of pronunciations for a single word. If the pronunciation you're looking for is in these variations, you can pick it and ingest it into your interaction model. However, you're not satisfied with these recommendations and pronunciation variations, you can bring your own pronunciation in XAMPA format and ingest it into the skill. Once you have ingested all the pronunciations you need and rebuild the skill, you can rerun the ASR evaluation and see if the skill interaction model is now able to handle these pronunciation variations. Custom Lexicon is in developer preview, and we would encourage you to sign up and try this out. Let's look at all the things we've learned today. We started by talking about skill quality. We saw why skill quality was important and why focusing on skill quality will help you build a more richer and engaging skill that drives more engagement, more retention, and more traffic down the road. We used analytics data to look at different quality metrics like friction and unhandled requests and saw how we can use these to troubleshoot issues and update our skills. We used friction utterances to identify use cases for improving our skill interaction model. Next, we looked at different testing and evaluation tools. We used the newly launched automated test set generation system to generate comprehensive test set within minutes for your skill. We used evaluation results from these test sets to identify different types of issues. We identified a few different variations of utterances that the skill would have failed to support and updated our interaction model to support these. Lastly, we looked at two different quality tools: Utterance recommendation engine to help you improve the natural language understanding of the skill, and custom pronunciation to help you improve the speech recognition of your skill. We know we have just scratched the surface in the past 30 minutes. Use our Slack channel to know how to use our quality tools and what are some of the features that you would like to see covered there. Also, if you have ideas and best practices on how you approach skill quality and how you improve the quality of your skill, we would love to hear from you. The Slack channel is also a great resource for new developers who are just starting to build on Alexa. I hope you learned something in this tech talk today and will take time to explore avenues for improving skill quality using some of the tools that you saw here today. We have created a survey to capture your feedback. The link for it is posted in the chat. Please take a moment to let us know how we did today and what we can do better. Thank you.